Please turn to page 55 in your grammar books. And I did get a message, I think it was from Alexis, about having a hard time keeping up with the writing part. But and that's okay, you guys have been like out of the country, so I totally get that. If you check the Google Classroom, it kind of worked out in your favor because we slowed it down a lot. And so I think you'll be all right if you see where we're at in Google Classroom. We're not as far as what I originally told you. So I think you guys will be fine. And it's okay to work ahead in the grammar book if you need to use that to make more time for writing. I'm good with that too. Okay. So, all right. So page 55, we're talking about clauses. A clause, and we've been talking about this for a while. So it's a group of words, related words that contain both a subject and a verb. So it's part of a sentence. And there's different types of clauses that we have in our sentences. So we're going to talk about dependent clause. A dependent clause is a clause that cannot stand alone. And that's easy to remember because a dependent is depending on something else, right? So that means it can't stand alone as a sentence because it does not express a complete thought. So a dependent clauses begin with a word that causes them to be an incomplete thought. In this book, you've learned the 3 types of dependent clauses. We already know the who, which, because we already are using that in our writing as well. The who, which clause begins with who or which. That one's pretty easy. Are you good, Caitlin? You looking for your book?
Yeah, I found it though.
Okay, good. Okay. And then a that clause, which we've talked about a little bit already, begins with that. That's pretty easy. And then an adverb clause begins with the www word. Remember that www.asia.b? You guys remember that? Where we, each letter stands for a word. And I did recommend that you put a little post-it on that page so you can go back to that to refresh your memory. But it's the who, what, when. I can't think of them off the top of my head. As is part of Asia. So anyway, let's peek at it just because I don't want to confuse you guys. It's back a little bit on, check here, the www.asia. You guys know what page that's on? I'm trying to remember now. It was a while back.
Page 43.
Oh, good. Thank you. Just flip back there really quick for a second so we can remember what those are. www.asia.b is when, while, where, as, if, as, since, if, although, because. Page 43, if you don't have a little post-it on that page, I recommend you do that so you can refer back to that page. Excellent. Okay, back to where we were. So those clauses are pretty easy to identify because they begin with one of those words. A dependent clause must be added to a main clause. And here's the main clause rule. A main clause is a clause because it contains a subject and a verb. A main clause expresses a complete thought, so it can stand alone as a sentence. That makes sense. Here we have some examples. Families lived in the forest. Every sentence must have a main clause. So there you go. And they marked it with the brackets there. And it has the subject and the verb. So the subject is families and lived is the verb. Families lived in the forest because they lost their homes. In addition to a main clause, a sentence may include one or more dependent clauses. This one is a www.asia adverb clause because we have because. And that is the B in that acronym. It's not a complete sentence by itself. So if I take off that main clause, because they lost their home, can't stand by itself, right? So the way we mark these, it says, in addition to a main clause, a sentence may include one or more dependent clauses. It's dependent on this part of the sentence in order for it to make sense. Mark it, place a square brackets around the main clause, which is also going to be MC, that stands for main clause, and then write V above each verb and S above each subject. So here's another example. Usually, Robin practiced archery in the morning. So we have the main clauses here. Robin practiced archery in the morning. It is a sentence that can stand alone. And we have the subject Robin and what he did, practiced. Subject verb pair. When you mark the clause, you use the square brackets, begin with the subject of the main clause, and sometimes an article or adjectives will come before the subject. So here we have an extra word that came before, and sometimes that's there, and that's fine. Okay, and that's an adjective actually describing how often, usually, Robin practiced. Down here, think about it. The word because usually begins an adverb clause. However, when because is followed by of, the two words together are a preposition. Here's an example of the adverb clause at the bottom. Robin aimed carefully because he wanted the prize. Because he wanted the prize is an adverb clause. That's the www.asia.b. And that's the pattern. Because is the www word plus the subject plus the verb. So we got because, wanted, or the subject is he. So because he wanted, because those are three in a row there, that becomes an adverb clause. And then there's the prepositional phrase, Robin aimed carefully because of the prize. Because of the prize is a prepositional phrase because it's starting with because. So sometimes because is a preposition and sometimes it's part of an adverb clause. So it switches. It just depends on how it's used in the sentence. So here because it's because of plus a noun, which is the prize, and no verb, that becomes a prepositional phrase. Okay. Any questions about that so far? No, you're good. Okay. So let's see what time we got. Yes, we're good. We're going to go ahead and practice this page together, and then I'll assign the next 3 pages for homework. Let's see. How about Brody? Could you read this sentence to us, please?
Robin's followers declared that they would rob everyone who had robbed them.
Good. Okay. The vocabulary is declared. That just means he said that, or he announced in a strong and confident way. Declared. That's our vocabulary. We can check that. We don't have any articles in this sentence. In this sentence. So that's different for us. We're going to start right off with the noun. So let's see, Ryan, what is the noun in our sentence here?
Robin.
Robin is actually, you're right. Normally it would be a noun, but it's describing the followers. So it actually in this sentence becomes an adjective. So followers is actually the noun. By the way, I'm just going to give you a little reminder that this is what's really complicated about the English language is sometimes words can have different parts of speech. But in the sentence, it can only be used as one. So it was a really good guess, Ryan. I would have thought that too, but because it's describing the followers, it becomes an adjective. So it can't be a noun and an adjective at the same time. All right, so the noun is followers. And then we've got some pronouns here. How about Caitlin? Can you find some pronouns for us? We've got 3.
They.
Yep.
Them.
Them. Good. It's kind of tricky one.
Who?
Good guess, but it's actually everyone.
Oh.
Yeah, it's everyone because it's describing someone, a group of people, right? It's not a regular program that a pronoun that replaces male or female. It's a group of people. Okay. Next is adjectives. I gave that away already. This one here is the adjective because it's describing the followers. So we can mark that one off. How about Brody? Or we already did Brody. Let's go to Alexis. A who which clause.
Who had robbed them?
Yes, and we're going to use parentheses around this one. And we know that because the little clue right here with the WW has parentheses around it. That's your clue that's how you mark that. So we're going to put W/W over who. And then Kira, the that clause.
Oops. That they would rob.
Yes, that they would rob
everyone.
Yes, correct. That they would rob everyone. So same way, it shows the parentheses right there around that. So we're going to use parentheses to mark this. And I know it looks repetitive, but we're still going to write that on top of that. It's telling us we're labeling that clause, that clause. It's enough to make your head spin for sure. Main clause. Now this one, I'm going to go back to Ryan on this one. Main clause has the subject and verb in it. So what do you think the main clause is?
The main clause is who had robbed them.
Who had robbed them? We already marked that one though. That's a who which clause.
All right, so then it's that they would rob everyone.
That's actually the that clause. We already marked that one. So it's the part we haven't marked yet.
Robin followers declared.
Yes, Robin's followers declared is the main clause. We're going to mark that one with a square bracket here. And that's the main clause. So we'll mark it with MC. Now, within the main clause, we have subject verb. Each clause, I'll say that. Each clause has subject verb pairs, and sometimes there's more than one verb. So let's break this down. Caitlin, we're just going to look at the main clause first. Robin's followers declared. What is the verb in that part, in that clause?
Declared.
Declared. So that one's a V. And then what is the subject? Who declared?
Followers.
Correct. So I'm glad you didn't say Robin's, because remember, that's just describing the followers, but the followers are the ones that declared. So that's why that becomes the subject and the verb. Now, Brody, we're going to look at the that phrase. The that phrase is that they would rob everyone. So let's start with the verbs. What verbs do you see? There's more than one in here.
Rob.
Yes.
And would.
Yes, correct. It's a helping verb. So would rob. So we got the two verbs right here. And what is the subject? Who is it that is robbing?
They.
Correct. So that becomes the subject. Good job. So we got they would rob. And now, Alexis, this last part, the who which phrase, who had robbed them. So what are the verbs in that phrase or clause?
Had robbed.
Good. Had is the helping. Robbed is the verb, the action verb. And then the subject?
Who?
Correct. Good, you guys. So each clause has its own subject verb pairs, and that's it. That's the 3. The opener. This is talking about, even though we have the adjective as the first word here, the subject comes right after. So this is considered a subject opener, and the subject opener is a number 1 opener. So we're going to put 1 and then put subject here. And we're going to be talking more about those openers as we go, and as we get deeper into the writing part of the class, we're going to practice using each one of those types of openers. That's a subject opener, so we're going to put a check there. Capitals, that's pretty easy. Robin's is capitalized, and then a period at the end here. Those usually are pretty straightforward. Okay, so that is it for that page. Now your homework will be pages 58, 59, and 60. And the exciting news of the day, aside from me winning the election, is that is all your homework this week, is the grammar pages. So everybody can do a victory dance. Woohoo! I'm going light on the homework this week because I know some of the students usually have class earlier in the week and they wouldn't have as much time to do their homework. So I'm being super extra nice to you guys. And that's it for your homework, are the 3 pages of grammar. Okay, we're still going to talk about writing in class because we still have more things to talk about. But as far as the homework, that's all you have. So that's also going to give Alexis and Kira a little time to catch up, and anybody else who needs a little time to catch up. You got it. We're done with grammar. I need you to now erase this really quick. Okay. Get out your paragraph for Odysseus and the Cyclops. Odysseus and the Cyclops. That was like a crazy story. Did Alexis and Kira, did you guys get a chance to read that?
I read it, but we haven't done any of the homework on it yet.
Okay. That's all right. You got time.
Yeah.
So, let me get it out really quick here.
I put it in work in progress.
It's on page 47. I'm just going to kind of give you a recap because I don't want to spend too much time rereading that. But actually, is there any volunteers to tell us kind of like a recap of what this story was about? Oh, good. Ryan, tell us what this story was about.
The story was about Odysseus, and he and his friends went to this island of Cyclops after the Trojan War. So the Cyclops were raising lamb for milk and cheese. They went to take a lamb and use it for supplies on their journey ahead, but then a Cyclops didn't like that and took them into the cave. And the Cyclops was also eating the men day after day. So Odysseus was tricking the Cyclops into doing this stuff. Odysseus gave him some, I think, beer or something like that, vodka. And
I think it was wine. It was actually wine.
Okay.
Yeah.
And got the Cyclops drunk, and then the Cyclops said he was gonna have him last. So the Cyclops was passed out for a little bit, and Odysseus stabbed the Cyclops in the eye. So the Cyclops didn't know where to go since he only had one eye. And he went outside and left the door open, and they escaped. And Odysseus said, "You should never mess with us again. And by the way, my name is not Nobody."
Yes, good job, Ryan. That's perfect. Do you remember, Brody, do you remember how they snuck out? Because he was blind, right? He only had one eye in the middle of his head and it was stabbed. So how did the Greeks sneak out? Remember, Brody?
Yeah, they had like a stick or something like that in the cave, or like a pole, and they heated it up, and then they stabbed him in the eye.
They stabbed him in the eye, but how did they get out of the cave? Because remember, the Cyclops was at the cave and he was counting his sheep as they ran past him. He was touching the sheep. Remember that? And how did the men?
Yeah, they. I don't remember that part.
You don't remember that part? Anybody else remember? I see your hand, Ryan. Hold on a second. Do you remember, Caitlin, how they got out?
Hmm?
Do you remember how they got out? The men?
Oh yeah. So he left the door opened,
Yeah.
and so they snuck out. Like, no, they clinged onto the bottom of the sheep
Yes.
because since the Cyclops couldn't see, he patted the back of each of his sheep
Yes.
to make sure that they weren't escaping, and they knew that he was going to do that, so they decided to cling underneath the sheep so they could get out without him.
Yes. Great. That's good. Yes. I don't know how they did that because I'm thinking these men were probably big guys, and I know they must have been big sheep. That's all I have to say about that, for them to hang on underneath them like that.
I feel like they weren't sheep. I feel like they were rams.
They must have been like full size big rams. They're pretty big. They can be like 300 pounds as far as like in real life. Of course, this was a myth, so they could be any size really, but
Maybe because
Good.
they're living with the giants. Maybe they're like giant sheep compared to ours.
that's true. That's very true. That might have been it, because I was imagining this giant milking a lamb. That would be kind of crazy because typically that would be difficult to do, but you're right. Maybe the sheep were oversized. That's a good point. Okay. So yeah, that was it in a nutshell. Good job, Ryan, with that summary. And now your homework was to actually use your story sequence chart to write paragraph 1. So the story sequence chart, just to give you an update or a recap on that, is when we take a story and we condense it down into 3 Roman numerals for each part of the story. So it's a little bit different than what we've been doing with the regular keyword outline. So this is kind of a new thing. We started this with the miller, the son, and the donkey. So we just start with the Roman numeral 1 is the characters and setting of the story. And then we did that in class last week. And then you wrote your first paragraph only. So that's where we are right now in this story. And so what I'd like to do, I know Kira and Alexis don't have theirs yet. That's okay. So I'm just going to have Ryan, Caitlin, and Brody read their paragraph. And then while they're reading this, I want everybody to be listening for, they should have an ly adverb, who, which clause. And those are the 2 main things, I think, right? Those are the 2 things you had in your, let me just double check really quick on the homework assignment so I can refresh my memory. ly and who, which, that's all we're looking for right now. Okay, yeah, that's it. So let me start with Ryan. Go ahead and just read your paragraph. We'll be listening for the ly word and the who, which clause, and then we can see if we can catch that. So when you're ready, go ahead and just read your first paragraph.
Odysseus and his men were on a boat to a land of Cyclops. The Cyclops were uncivilized and had one big eye in the center of their head. So Odysseus and his men saw that they were milking the sheep and getting cheese out of them. So they sneakily took a lamb from the Cyclops for supplies and materials, since they were kind of poor at the time. So they did that. So they ran into a big Cyclops that caught them stealing the sheep, and the Cyclops took them to the cave and trapped them.
Okay,
I think
good.
I
And it
forgot to do
sounded,
the who witch thing though.
did you actually write the paragraph yet, or is that just your outline?
That is my paragraph.
Oh, okay. It sounded like you were adding extra words to it.
Yeah.
Okay. So you didn't get a chance to do who which yet? Okay. That's okay. Good job with that. I like your paragraph. And I did hear, did you guys catch an ly adverb? I heard one. Anybody else catch it? What did you guys hear, Alexis and Kira?
Surprisingly, sneakily.
Okay, surprisingly and sneakily. There you go. Good job, Ryan, with those. And then the who which, you can find a spot for that. When you're talking about the Cyclops, you could say who only had one eye or something like that. Or if you're talking about the sheep, which were used for milking and making cheese, something like that. So you can find a spot for that, but you need to make sure to do that this next week, okay? Because I do want you to make sure you include the who which clause in there. Good job, Ryan. Okay, Caitlin, let me hear your paragraph and we'll listen for the who which and the ly adverb in yours.
Odysseus and the Cyclops. Returning home from the war, a man named Odysseus and his men became trapped in a storm. The storm carried them to an island which was owned by the great Cyclops. Cyclops are angry giants with one eye in the middle of their forehead. The Cyclops on the island would raise sheep, drink milk, and eat cheese. These giants also happen to be horribly crude and uncivilized.
Nice. Excellent job. I heard an ly and I heard the which clause. Brody, did you catch the ly word? No? Okay, be listening. Did anybody else catch it? It was horribly, right, Caitlin? I heard it horribly. And then I heard which was owned. I think that's where you use that word which was owned. So excellent. You got them both in there. And good job with your, both Ryan and Caitlin, good job with your introduction paragraph. That's the first paragraph of the story where you're introducing the character and the setting, and you've both have done that. So good job. Brody, do you have your paragraph ready? Okay, go ahead and read yours and listen, you guys. Yeah, listen for the ly word and the who which clause.
Odysseus, who was a Greek hero, and his men were returning home from the Trojan War. Then one day a huge storm hit. It was so bad they couldn't control where their boat was going. After a few hours uncontrollably driving, they reached an island that they all feared. It was a Cyclops island, and it was home to the cruel one-eyed Cyclops. The Cyclops were giants that raised sheep for milk and cheese. After Odysseus and his men were washed up on shore for a while, they went exploring. Then out of nowhere, they found a huge Cyclops cave.
Nice. Okay, I heard the ly word. Anybody else catch it? No, Ryan saying no. Did you guys catch it, Alexis or Kira? Which one was it?
Uncontrollably.
Yes, uncontrollably. I heard that one. And I didn't catch a who which though. Did you have one in there, Brody? Or did any, oh, you caught it, Ryan? Which one was it?
Who returned from the war. It was his first sentence.
Nice. You caught that. Very good. Okay, Brody, and good job. You actually did great introducing the characters and the setting and where they came from, where they were going. So you guys all did great on that first part of the story sequence chart. That is exactly how it goes. You start by introducing the characters and the setting. Okay. We are going to talk about next strong verbs. Now, I forgot, I should know this because in my notes I can't find it, but have we talked about banned words yet? Have we talked about that yet at all? No. Okay, that's a different class. All right, cool. So in your binder, I want you to look for a blue page and it's page 49, and it's blue. And it's called Banned Words List. Looks like this. Banned Words List, it's page 49, and it's blue. And I know that you have your dress up list in the front of your binder. This is also going to stay in the front of your binder, because we're going to be adding, we're going to use this page quite a bit here to make some lists. Everybody got that page? Give me a thumbs up if you got it. Okay, good. Brody's got it. Ryan, you got it? Okay. So in writing, there are some words that we tend to use too much. And we're going to talk about those words now, and then we're going to ban those words, which means you're not allowed to use them anymore in your writing for this class, which is actually a good challenge because it's going to challenge you to come up with a different word to use in place of that, which will increase your vocabulary, number one, and it'll make your story a lot more interesting to read. So this class, like I've said before, is about style and structure. So the structure we're learning right now is in a narrative where we have the characters and setting, we have the conflict resolution, and then the problem, and then the resolution at the end. So that's the structure we're talking about. And this part is the style. So we're going to talk about how to change up some words to give your story more style. And in that, you'll see at the top here, I know my light is kind of reflecting here, but banned words list and its verbs. This is going to force you to come up with some strong verbs. And the strong verbs are going to be more descriptive. It's going to tell more of an image or a feeling that you are portraying in your sentences. So for instance, the first one we're going to talk about is, and right here, you're going to write it where that line is through, because that's representing not. You're going to put say/said. Say/said, and it's going to go right where that line through it, because it's like the symbol, you know, you circle it, put a line through it, means not. So that is now considered a banned word. Say or said, or any version of those words like says or saying, any version of those words is now banned. So now we got to come up with some words we can use in place of that. For instance, we could say exclaimed. And you're going to write kind of small because we're going to make a pretty big list here. So don't go crazy on your handwriting here. Just try to keep it minimal if you can. Exclaimed is one. So now I want to give it open to you guys. If you think of a word you could use in place of say or said, go ahead and unmute and tell us. We're just going to make a master list here on here. What's another word?
Questioned.
Questioned. Good one.
Going in the first, maybe.
You can unmute as you think of them. How about shouted? Brody, can you think of any way that a character might say something? No, you don't have any idea. Oh. Whispered, there you go, the opposite, that'll work. Whispered. How about Caitlin? Can you think of anything? How a character would say something?
Mumbled.
Oh yeah, good one. Mumbled. How about boasted? Or cried? Ryan, can you think of any?
No.
No, he's like, no, honestly. I don't blame you. It's okay.
Acknowledged.
Say it again.
Acknowledged.
Okay, good.
I think I got one.
Okay.
Shockingly. Wait, no, never mind.
You're on the right track. But that's more of an adjective.
Yeah, I forgot it.
Okay. Did I spell acknowledged right? Doesn't look right to me. Maybe it's right. Acknowledged. Okay. What about scoffed? That one might come in handy with your story that you're working on. Or screamed. It could even be something as simple as sighed. Say that again, Brody.
Sighed. Like he sighed.
Sighed, yes. Responded. Okay, if you're running out of room, that's okay. I'm going to stop there. So you get the idea. So in your stories now, you cannot use say or said or saying or says or any form of those words. This is just a small list. There are a lot more to choose from. So here's what I recommend. If you don't find what you're looking for on this list, when you're writing your story, you may use a thesaurus. And you can go to thesaurus.com. I use that quite a bit. It's a safe website there. And then you just type in say or said, and it will give you a lot of choices. So when you're writing your stories, like when you're putting a quote that maybe the Cyclops is saying, or Odysseus, if he says something, that's when you need to come up with a different word that's more descriptive. This is giving your writing style. And it's also giving it more of an image or feeling that's happening in the story. One more word that's banned, I'm just checking time here, we're good on time, is see, saw. See, saw. And that's one of those super common words that we just tend to use, because it's just easy. And you're explaining how a character saw something. And so now those words are banned. So we can't use those anymore in our writing. It's really going to stretch your brain now. You're going to have to think of a different way to say see or saw. All right. Anybody have any ideas so far? Because I can help you get started on this. Okay, Ryan, you got an idea?
Cited.
Cited. Okay. Cited. Brody, did I see your hand for a second there? Do you have one?
No, I don't.
No. Cited is a tricky one. Somebody look that up and tell me if that's a real word, cited. I'm not sure that's correct. I don't have my phone with me. I don't know where it's at the moment, or else I'd look it up, but there we go. I see you guys looking it up. Cited.
It's a real word.
Cited. All right. Thank you. That's a good one. How about noticed? What's another word we could use instead of see or saw? Anybody have any ideas? Watched.
Glanced.
Ooh, yes, glanced. Good one. Spied. In fact, if you guys, I'm going to put observed here. You guys can use your other device if you have another device, or if you know how to minimize your Zoom and you want to go to thesaurus.com and type in see or saw, you can tell me some things that come up, because I know I'm really stretching your brain this morning. So maybe that would help if we kind of looked online. You could practice doing that.
What about studied?
Studied. Okay, good. If you're looking at something for a while, you study it. That's good.
Maybe observed?
Observed. I got that one.
Okay.
Yeah. That's a good one.
Detect.
Detect. Good. Or detected. Since we've got past tense here, I'll just put detected on there. It's a good one. Examined. This one's probably one of the
Identified.
identified. Okay, I like it. This is probably one of the harder words to replace. Ryan, you have one?
Spot.
Spot or spotted. Good. I like it. Okay, we'll stop there since we're running out of room, but you get the idea. So now in your writing, and we're going to practice this more next week because we don't have any writing assignments this week because I'm giving you guys a really light homework load. But starting next week, when you do your rewrites of the paragraphs, you're going to have to pay attention to these banned words and make sure that you don't use those and that you replace it with something that's more, these are strong verbs. These are all verbs we're using here, and they're strong because they give you an image or a certain feeling about the character or what they're saying or what they're doing. Okay, that's what you're going to focus on next time. Okay, and then we got a little time left. So show you something else here. We're just starting with those, but obviously there's more room on this chart. So keep this one in the front of your binder, okay? And we're going to bring it out again another time and add more banned words. But right now we just have say, said, and seesaw. So go ahead and move this blue page to the very front of your binder. I know there's a tab in there for current things that you're working on, but I like to have it at the very front. That's just a preference for myself because it's so easy to find at the very, very front of your binder. Okay. Now we're going to talk about some ly adverbs here. Go ahead and get out a clean piece of paper. We'll just make some notes for. I know you know what ly adverbs are, but we're going to make some notes of ly adverbs that you can use in your story about the Cyclops, the Odysseus and the Cyclops. Okay, so a clean piece of paper. Go ahead and label that. We'll call it Odysseus and the Cyclops. ly adverbs. And it's always nice to have a list to look back on, and especially when it's specific to the story that you're writing about, it kind of saves you some time and it really helps you get your brain around what you're trying to describe as far as actions in the story. So let's see. Let's start at the beginning where it talks about these these giants, or this giant Cyclops, and he's raising sheep. So what's a good ly adverb that we can put there describing somethingly raising sheep? What's one that we can put on this list, Ryan?
Calmly.
Oddly, for sure, or strangely. Does strangely have an E in it? I can't remember. Strangely. I told you spelling is not my forte, so. Do you guys know strangely has an E? Well, I'm leaving it there. Strangely, how about somethingly? Oh, I know, exploring the island. Remember Odysseus and his friends, they're exploring the island. So what's somethingly exploring the island?
Carefully.
Good, carefully. Good. Go ahead, Ryan.
Bravely.
Bravely, good. And Ryan, you guys can just unmute and say it. I'm just going to write it as you say it.
Excitedly.
Good. Good.
Cautiously.
Good. Yes. All right.
Curiously.
Hold on. Help me spell cautiously.
Ooh.
C-A-U. Anybody know how to spell cautiously?
Cautiously.
Thank you. Courageously, is that what you were saying, Brody? Okay. Courageously. Did I get that one right? Courageously. All of a sudden, my spelling ability just went. Phew. I feel like I'm not the only one that struggles with spelling, so I don't feel too bad about it. It's one of those things I never really got a good handle on.
I have a really hard time spelling too.
Okay, good. We can be sisters in that way. Yes. I don't know. I think it might have been my teachers when I was younger. And so I got all the way through school, all the way through high school and everything, and never really got a grasp on it. And now it's like forever that way. But I'm just thankful for spell check and for Siri and things like that, because they're lifesavers. Anyway, but just know I got my degree. I even got a master's degree in education. So if you're thinking about going to college and you struggle with spelling, don't let that stop you. You can make it. Or if you struggle with other things, just know that you're able to overcome it, or find the tools you need to help you. That's how I did. Okay, back to this. How about, let's see what we're at time-wise. Okay, we got a few minutes. Later, let's see. The Cyclops pushed this huge boulder. So he somethingly pushed the boulder across the entrance.
Strongly.
Okay, strongly. Okay, how about, let's think of another thing here.
What about slowly?
Fearlessly.
Oh, good. Yeah, I just need to give you guys more thinking time. Fearlessly and slowly. Yeah, slowly.
Loudly.
Definitely. Say that one again.
Loudly.
Okay. How about that part when the Cyclops caught up two of the men and dashed them to the ground and somethingly tore them limb from limb?
Disgustingly.
Disgustingly. And then I heard
Fiercely?
another one. I'm sorry, say it again.
Fiercely.
Fiercely, yes. I don't think I spelled that right. I think that has a,
Fiercely.
does it have a E-L-Y? F-I-E-R-C?
Yeah. Cely.
Okay, thank you. Fiercely, any other ideas on how he tore them limb from limb?
Gruesomely.
Gruesomely, nice one. Gruesomely. Let me zoom in here a little bit so you can read this better. Sorry, forgot to do that earlier. Okay, how about one last little part here toward the end? The Cyclops was, while the Cyclops was away, they planned their escape. So they somethingly planned their escape.
Sneakily, quietly.
Good,
Smartly.
good. I'm thinking of the word craftily for some reason, like craftily. I don't know. I'm just going to put it there. I think that's what it is. Craftily or creatively. How about that? Creatively. That was pretty creative, by the way. How they escaped. All right. I think we're good. We got that. You got the idea here. So now this list can go also in the very front of your binder, because like I said, next week in class, we're going to keep moving along in the story sequence chart. And then once you start rewriting those paragraphs, you're going to go refer to this list and your banned words list. So put that at the front of your binder. And we are a few minutes early, which is kind of nice. So like I said, your homework is basically your grammar pages. Next week, when you come back to class, you'll come back to your regular time, because this is just an unusual week because I wasn't teaching on those days. So, but if you happen to like this time better and your parents are okay with that, I'm okay if you want to switch to this time, that's fine with me. But if you want to keep your regular time, because all my classes for level B are in the same place for the, as far as the assignments and the homework and all that. So you can switch around times if you need to. But, and like I said, we're going to go back to our story sequence chart next week and keep going with this story. So hopefully this will give you guys some time to catch up, especially Alexis and Kira. You guys have any questions? Because I'm going to leave a little early today. If you don't have any questions, we are done for the day, and I will see you next week. So enjoy your light homework week. I'm glad you guys are back safe and sound. You're welcome, Brody. See you later. Have a good week. Bye.